Hello, hello, hello. My name is Jill Osborne. I am the president and founder of the Interstitial Cystitis Network. It is Tuesday, November 13th, and it is time for a drop-in random IC support group meeting. My goal with these meetings is to find patients who might be struggling today who happen to be online and take their questions. So if you are an IC patient or bladder pain patient or a pelvic pain patient, or if you've got pelvic floor dysfunction or irritable bowel or vulvodynia, you are in the right place because that is in fact what we do. So the IC Network is the largest IC support group in the United States. We work with about 200,000 patients a month through our website. And my goal with these meetings is to make you so strong, so powerful, so informed that when you walk into any doctor's office, you will be able to take charge of your medical care, engage in really good, strong discussions about what you need, find relief, try new treatments, prevent flares, enjoy food again, enjoy intimacy again. That is our goal. So we are simulcasting right now on Facebook up on top, YouTube right down below. Hello, Karen. Hey, girl, how is the smoke down there? Hey, Donna. Tarana on Facebook says, numbness in the urethra is not IC, correct? Yes, that is not IC. That is not. Well, let me qualify that. Remember, we've got subtypes for IC now. Hi, Lucy. So we've got, let's see, how do we want to say this? So remember, we got 5 subtypes. So we got Hunter's lesions. So numbness in the urethra is not Hunter's lesions. We got bladder wall driven. Numbness in the urethra is not bladder wall driven. We got pelvic floor dysfunction. Numbness in the urethra could be that if it's really, really tight. But it's more likely that it's IC subtype 4 pudendal neuralgia. Maybe you've got muscles so tight they're compromising a nerve and irritating your urethra and causing some of that numbness. So that would be my guess with that, Tarana. Roxanne asks, does anyone with IC have anxiety? Oh my God, yes. Anxiety is in fact one of the biggest related conditions to IC. I have had anxiety disorder since I was a kid. I mean, like literally elementary school. I have a really interesting story about that because, gosh, God, how long ago was it? God, it must have been 15, 17 years ago. One of the big IC research studies found a very, very strong connection between IC and anxiety. Now, around the same time, researchers were trying to map what we call the human genome. We were trying to understand and map out the DNA of the human body. And it was, in fact, anxiety researchers who were looking for those little pieces of DNA that correlate with anxiety. As they were mapping the genome for anxiety, one of the things that they discovered is almost every patient they were working with had bladder symptoms. And they thought, well, that's kind of odd. That's unusual. Why would somebody with anxiety have bladder symptoms? So then they went to the urology community and they asked the doctors and the researchers, do your patients have anxiety disorder? And of course, our researchers said, oh, hell yeah, we do have anxiety disorder. And that was really the first concrete scientific link between IC and anxiety disorder. Now, the question is why? Why does an IC patient struggle with anxiety disorder? They actually think it's about the DNA. So I don't know if you're really familiar with DNA, but DNA has chains of, gosh, let's see. Let me see if I can draw a picture of it. Hold on a sec. I don't know if I can or not. But let me try. I mean, because this is interesting. And my goal in this is to make you, help you understand that you did nothing wrong. This is not your fault in any way, shape, or form. All right. So, whoops. Something fell. I'm going to give you all a fire update, too. We are in the middle of fire country, and I'm telling you right now, it is beyond miserable. It's terrible. All right. So let me see if I can just draw this out for you really quickly. Here. I love being creative, guys, so I got to get my colors out. If you could see my office right now, you would see it's filled with colors because my brain organizes by colors. I don't know if anybody else does that. That's a type of learning. If you've ever taken an adult learning test, some people learn by watching, some people learn by reading, some people learn by doing, and some people organize their thoughts. It's a much rarer learning style by colors. And I am one of those people where literally I have to think in colors. It's so weird, but it's me. All right, so let's get back to anxiety. So if you were to look at your DNA is, and this is a side view, it's chains of molecules, right? And so the theory with anxiety and DSA is, let's say that the green ones relate to bladder function and the purple ones relate to anxiety disorder. So the theory as to why IC and anxiety are connected is because they overlap. So when this one gets turned on, this one gets turned on. That was one of the theories that Dr. Theoharides explained to me years ago when this research came out. So I'm sure that there's other explanations as well, but that's the one that immediately comes to the top of my mind, is that it's kind of an accident of genetics, that either the DNA is completely matching up or the DNA is slightly overlapping, and that's why they both end up being activated in some people. It is, but there's another theory. Actually, there's one more theory, and that is IC subtype 5 central sensitization. So if you're one of those patients where you have super sensitive skin like me, you're drug sensitive, you're food sensitive, you have a wicked sense of smell, that means that you've got a body and a nervous system that is just literally wired to be a bit more sensitive. It's easier for nerves to get turned on in people with central sensitization, and it's all about our action potential. The action potential of our nerves is lower than in other people. So another theory of anxiety disorder is that we, in fact, have a sensitivity not only to outside chemicals, and I know that there are a lot of people watching this right now, you struggle with smells and cigarette smoke and bathroom scents and chemicals, harsh chemicals like that. So we know that outside chemicals can stimulate our nervous system, but we also know that inside chemicals can also overstimulate our nervous system, specifically adrenaline. So if you've got central sensitization and you've got a nervous system that is literally on a hair trigger, it's going to react to chemical exposure of outside and inside. When you have anxiety, you've got lots and lots of adrenaline floating through your body, right? Because anybody with anxiety disorder, you all know this, we are masters at negative thinking. We are masters at catastrophic thinking. Like for me, the fires right now. And so every time you have a negative thought, you get a big jolt of adrenaline shooting through your bloodstream. But if you're sensitive, unfortunately, what happens is that adrenaline ends up amping up a lot of that anxiety. So I took a wonderful class on anxiety management called Phobies that taught us that the secret to anxiety management for us is, in fact, learning to control adrenaline levels. We get overstimulated by adrenaline on the inside, and that's what makes your heart race. That's what promotes all more negative thoughts. That provokes all sorts, nausea, irritable bowel, all that sort of stuff, that running to the bathroom. A lot of that is just a sensitive body that's completely overloaded with adrenaline. So how do we reduce adrenaline? It's easy, and that's what this class taught me, called Phobies. Phobies was developed by a surgeon with anxiety disorder, and this is the technique he taught all of his patients. So what he says is, if you want to control anxiety, you've got to control adrenaline. So how do we do it? Every time you have a negative thought, the first thing you do is fill your brain up with a stop sign. Just close your eyes and just fill your brain up with a stop sign. Just stop for a moment. Then take a nice, slow, deep breath in and out. And it's that one single deep breath that turns off that adrenaline shot from that negative thought. Okay, so stop sign, deep breath in, out. Then the third step is to actually just remind yourself that it's a thought. It's not real. So what I say to myself is, oh my God, Jill, you're not God. You can't predict the future. How dare you think that tomorrow is going to be a bad day? It's not necessarily going to be a bad day. Come on, give yourself a break. It's not real. So that's the reality check. So they taught us this: stop sign, deep breath, and minimize the thought. Okay. So they sent us home and they warned us. They said, now listen, we need you to do this. We need you to do this technique every time you have a negative thought for a week. Just take our word for it. Just please do it. And you're going to do it hundreds of times. You're going to be stunned at how often you do it. So we went home from this class. And oh my God, I had no idea that like literally every freaking thought in my brain was negative at that time. And if you watch my videos, you know I'm a really optimistic person. I was stunned. It was such a habit to think negatively, right? So I must have done it 200 times the first 24 hours. The next day, I did it maybe 100 times. The day after that, I did it maybe 50 times. The day after that, I did it maybe 25 times. A week later, I was doing it once a day. And guess what? My anxiety was massively better. Okay, why? Because I took control of the freaking adrenaline going through my brain. The adrenaline was making me slightly insane. And you get stuck in this vicious circle of negative thought, adrenaline overstimulating your nervous system, driving more negative thoughts, bam, bam, bam. It's kind of like, I've talked to some patients and I say to them, I said, it's like you're a tornado and you can't stop yourself. You're just spinning. So our goal here is just try to get you to stop for a moment. And that's what this technique does. This technique stops adrenaline overload. And when you do that, you will be stunned at how much better you feel. Okay, so stop sign, deep breath in, out, and then minimize the thought. I challenge you, I double dog dare you to try it. And you're going to do it hundreds of times. I now do it. I was down to doing it maybe once a month before my cancer scare. And with my cancer scare last year, let me tell you, I was on the way to the hospital to have 2 surgeries, and I was doing it in the car. But you know what? I never had a panic attack. I have not had a panic attack since I took the class because I know what to do. I know how to control that adrenaline. So Roxanne, I want you to try that, girl. You might be absolutely amazed. Now I want to give you an update real quick. And if it's cloudy here and dark in here, that's not cloud, that's smoke. We are in Northern California. We are in a hell of fires right now, an absolute hell. I cannot leave my house. We have not been able to leave our house in days. The weather is, the smoke outside is hazardous. There is a massive layer of ash everywhere. And as you may have known, the entire town of Paradise was destroyed in hours. This is exactly what happened a year ago to my town, Santa Rosa. In less than 8 hours, 5,000 homes were burned. So if I'm not answering the phone, you just need to understand that we're dealing with a real bad crisis. We had a fire 2 mornings ago, literally 2 miles from my home, up the hill. And I'm telling you, all I can say is praise God, hallelujah, for every single one of those firefighters, because they came in with planes and helicopters, and we had 10 crews there, and they stopped it. If they hadn't stopped it, I would not be here at my head. So I'm going to ask all of you to look out for your friends who are in California who might be struggling. It is a very, very scary time for us. And yeah, look at that. I have to do my stop sign. Deep breath. Whew, look at that. I was going to get myself all upset. Okay, minimize the thought. Jill, there's no fire right now. You're okay. There's no fire, within 20 miles of your house right now. Okay. But anyway, when you see stories like that, if you've got relatives or friends in California, I see support group friends in California, please send them some love And for anybody who's lost their homes, anybody who's evacuated and they've got IC and I've worked with them before, please have them call me because I will give them stuff if I can, whether it's supplements or anything that they might have bought from us before that they need. I will try to get it to them. Alrighty. So wish us luck, people. It's pretty scary to live here right now. I'm just going to say one other thing. Somebody said that it was because of improper forest management. I will tell you that these are not forest fires. These are brush fires. These are on oak-covered hills. There's no forest involved. Not enough said. I do need to give you one more update, and that is that many of you know with the Elmeron eye research that came out in the late summer in September. We announced it in September. We announced that researchers at the Emory Eye Institute or Emory Eye Center had discovered a rare eye disease that they believe is associated with the long-term use of Elmeron, the only FDA-approved oral medication for IC. I've spoken about that several times. We launched a research survey about it. I have more than 700 people who have taken our survey. Of those Elmeron users, of which there were 698 or something like that, we have a 53% rate of eye disease. Staggering, staggering. I was asked by Dr. Phil Hanno at Stanford when I sent him the data. He called it remarkable, and he asked me to submit it to the FDA. And our data now is updated and was accepted as a citizen's petition last Friday. I will tell you, it was a bear to do, and not only to correlate the data, but also just to fill out the FDA forms. I had to do it many, many times. It was rejected many, many times because I didn't follow the right forms or didn't cite the right code or regulation. It is now accepted, and we are now asking the FDA to review our data, to review the Emory data, and my request is that they notify, they put a safety warning on the medication and notify patients taking Elmeron that if they are struggling with any eye issues, that they have an immediate eye exam, and that patients taking Elmeron have eye exams every year to make sure nothing is happening. And I've had patients contact us who have no problems, and I have patients contacting us saying, thank you, thank you, thank you. You may have just saved my eyesight, because we were trying to figure out why it was getting worse and worse and worse. And with the information from the Emory Eye Center, they were actually diagnosed with pigmentary maculopathy, which is the scientific name for this new disease that they have discovered. So I will give you more updates on that, but I'm very proud that we did get our citizens petition accepted. I have a petition number. I'm not quite sure what we do next, to be quite honest. But anyway, it's in the works. It is now officially filed. So that is my update here. Let's go ahead and start taking some of your questions here. Hello, YouTube. Hello, Facebook. I'm going to go to a YouTube question here first. Lizzie says, I'm in so much pain every day. When my anxiety is running high, it feels like a direct lightning bolt straight to my pelvic pain. Well, you know, girl, part of that, you have to understand that when you're super anxious, you've got a lot of, and I don't remember exactly what they are. I mean, we know adrenaline is circulating through your body like mad, but we also know your nervous system is getting traumatized as well. I know that when I'm faced with extreme anxiety, or if, for example, you have to tell me I have to fly tomorrow, I promise you tonight I will have an IC and IBS flare, and I will be up a good portion of the night getting emptied. It's always been that way for me. I don't know how to turn that off. Yeah, cortisol. Thank you, Pat. Cortisol. So it doesn't surprise me that when you have anxiety, you have more symptoms. And that is, again, why learning really good anxiety management skills like that Phobies method is the secret to life. You know, I mean, I took that when I was 35 years old. I had already struggled with anxiety for 15 years. And I was so frustrated that I hadn't learned that earlier. It would have made college easier. It would have made dating easier. It would have made everything easier. I remember my first job for the feds. I was working for Health and Human Services after I got my pharmacology degree. And the day I was supposed to report to work, I got sick the night before with massive IBS. And I had to call in sick my first 2 days of my federal job. And that was all from stress. So when you got this really simple stop sign, deep breath, minimize the thought, when you really control that adrenaline levels, you end up really controlling your body and calming your body down and reducing those flare-induced physical events. I have to say, and I'm being completely honest here, I've not had a panic attack since I took that class. And I had panic attacks fairly regularly before that. And it was all about just learning how to stop the adrenaline level. I'm also really baffled, and I've asked a lot of doctors about this. Why does somebody with anxiety think negatively? Because I'm not a negative person. I'm a positive person in every way, shape, or form. Yet I find myself baffled that my brain often turns to the negative before it turns to the positive. Like if somebody says, hey, let's drive up to Tahoe, my first reaction is, no, I'll have a flare. And then I have to stop myself and say, wait a second. You haven't had a flare in a long time. Maybe it's worth a try. So anyway, I get off my high horse about that one. All right. Thank you. And thank you, Pat, for mentioning cortisol. That's the issue. All right. Going to Facebook questions. Can IC cause neurogenic bladder? I don't believe so. I don't believe that we've ever had any connection between IC and neurogenic bladder. Remember, hun, we've got IC subtypes now. So what we have to ask is is there a subtype that's more inclined to trigger neurogenic bladder? Could Hunter's lesions trigger neurogenic bladder? That's a really interesting question. I don't know. Can pelvic floor trigger neurogenic bladder? I don't think so. Pudendal neuralgia? I don't think so. Central sensitization? I don't think so. But that's a great question. But we can't make a general statement of can IC trigger neurogenic bladder. I will, the next time I talk with one of my medical board members, I will ask them that question. And let's see what they have to say. I think that's a great question. Lucy says, my doctor gave me a low dose of clonazepam. I'm a nervous wreck when I drive in big cities, had 2 car accidents, hate driving. You know, Lucy, I got to tell you, so the anxiety management class that I took at my local hospital, and what made me take it is I had terrible anxiety going to the doctor after my IC started, because I felt like every time I went to the doctor, I was being hurt by a test. And it was really, really hard to make an appointment and then have a panic attack before the appointment and get myself all worked up, miserable, get myself to the doctor, heart racing. And then you know what I'm talking about. I mean, we've all been there. And I just got sick of it. It's like, I can't live this way anymore. I don't want to do this anymore. I need help. I needed a way to learn how to manage that anxiety. And all I can say is thank God that they had this fabulous anxiety management class. And in that class, what was really cool about the class, there were about 30 people in the class, and I think when you got something like that, you're really thinking, you're really thinking that there's something really wrong with you and that anybody can see it. And when you actually walk into a room and you see other completely normal people in that room, it's like, oh, wait, gosh, look at that. I'm not an abnormal person. I'm a normal person struggling with something. That's the same thing when you go to an IC support group meeting for the first time. When you actually, there's a part of us on your inside when you're first diagnosed with IC where you're thinking, what the hell's wrong with me? Somebody please tell me why I deserve this or whatever. The thoughts that you have going through your brain when you're newly diagnosed with something's really hard. But then you walk into a room of other people And you look at them in the face and you go, oh my God, these are entirely normal people. They haven't done anything wrong. I haven't done anything wrong. I'm just hurt. And that was the gift of the anxiety class. And I will tell you, in my anxiety class were the first lotto winners in the state of California in our lottery system. And they won all that money and they gave them terrible anxiety. But we had people who were afraid to drive off bridges. We had a lot of people who were afraid of driving. We had some people who were afraid of shopping centers. And the class was amazingly helpful. So Lucy, I would encourage you to look for an anxiety management class. You know, God didn't give us the skills to handle life when we're born. We have to learn them. I mean, and you can suffer it out on your own and pray that you'll get through it, but why not benefit from the expertise and experience of other people who've gone through it and learned how to cope with it? And that's why a class is so good. It will give you skills. It's all about skills. It's not necessarily about rehashing your life and what the hell happened to you when you were a kid and yada, yada, yada. That was my mistake. I always thought, you know, it would be massive psychotherapy and yada, yada, yada to figure out what happened to me. And I didn't think anything had happened to me. I was very reluctant to do it. And again, what this class taught me was that no, it's just that you're sensitive to adrenaline. And when you learn to control adrenaline levels, you tend to feel a lot better. And that's a skill you have to learn. Stop sign, deep breath, minimize the thought. I have a video of it on our website. Courtney asked, what are some of the ways to avoid getting sick? I've been down with an upper respiratory infection and ended up with a terrible flare from Tessalon pearls. I don't know what Tessalon pearls are. Okay. So there are some people with IC who say they never get colds and flus. And I'm kind of one of them. It's really rare that I ever get colds or flus. And for other people, they say that they get like every single thing that's going through their family and their community. Number one, I would get a flu shot. Make sure you get a flu shot. Number two, I practice avoidance. I mean, literally, as soon as the colds and flu hit, because I care for two elderly people where I know one cold could potentially kill them. When I'm at the grocery store and there's somebody coughing, I like literally turn around and walk away. Eat really good, healthy food, drink plenty of water, talk to your doctor, see if they have any other suggestions. If you're immune compromised, it might be interesting to know why, et cetera, et cetera. But I would have a really good checkup with your doctor and see if they have any suggestions for you. I also, guys, on our Facebook page and on our Twitter account, we are asking for cold and flu suggestions. The last time we did this was about 10 years ago. I want to be proactive this year. I don't know why, but it feels like urgent to me that we get this out. So we're asking patients to share your best IC-friendly cold and flu strategies. What do you use? Like Ricola, regular Ricola is pretty bladder-friendly for most patients. I do Luden's Cherry drops. So that tends to work very well. But what do you do? What can you rely on when you have a sore throat or a flu? Another thing that's really good is a honeysucker, a hard honeysucker. If you've got a sore throat, that's certainly not going to hurt your bladder at all. So if you can come on over to our Facebook page or our Twitter account and tell us what your best cold and flu strategies would be, that would be so awesome. Thank you very much. Okay, so I'm trying. Now, remember, guys, I have trouble. Hold on a sec. Let me see if this is going to let me scroll back. And it's not. If I missed your question, please don't take it personally. What I need you to do is ask it again because it scrolls through very, very quickly. Emma says, our baby was sleeping at 21 weeks in March. Wow. Okay. So, Emma, her baby was born at 21 weeks due to severe inflammation, which caused you to bleed heavily during your pregnancy. Holy moly. You did a microgen test and found that you had a couple of different very resistant UTIs and that you're being treated for those now. Have you heard of bleeding issues during pregnancy due to inflammation with, no, hun, I haven't. Amazing. It really makes you wonder if you actually had a drug-resistant E. coli infection at the time that you became pregnant, or another type of UTI. It'd be very interesting to know what the infections are. Is it E. coli, staph, strep, enterococcus, micrococcus? Deanna says, does anyone with IC have arthritis? The answer is, it's not a strong correlation. It's really not a strong correlation. There is, though, kind of a correlation with cold fingers and cold toes. I don't have a scientific fact for that, but I know that that's something that we used to talk about in our support group meeting all the time. And I remember patients, in fact, I remember Evelyn, who helped me start my first IC support group. That was something that she kept talking about, are these swollen knuckles. And also Bev Lauman, the author of A Taste of the Good Life. That was something that we talked about once. We talked about aching fingers, but have we been diagnosed with, I don't have arthritis, but I've definitely had aching fingers. Oh, you have reactive arthritis that came because of your IC. Does that sound right? No arthritis helps my body. I don't know, hun. That's way outside my expertise. It'd be very interesting to learn more about that. Hello, Sonia. Welcome to the IC family. Sonia, we don't need to evacuate right now. We would have had to evacuate Saturday if that fire had gotten out of control because the winds were driving it right to our home. But luckily the fire department got it under control. We got some crazy people who are now setting fires across the state, apparently. I was reading in the paper today, they caught somebody in San Francisco setting fires. They caught somebody in Northern California setting fires. I think they caught somebody in Southern California. It's disgusting. You have to understand that these are not typical brush fires. These are firestorms. The fire up in Paradise moved 80 football fields a minute. 80 football fields a minute. That's why hundreds of people are missing and are presumed dead. Is it moved so quickly they could not get out of their house. And it also caught many people trying to evacuate in their cars, and they were killed in their cars. If you watch the videos on YouTube, you can see people, they had to get out of their car and run because the traffic was blocked. And that's what happened to us last year. We were at 4 in the morning. The police came for the second time, evacuated us again. We had 10 minutes to get out. We could see the flames in the distance coming our way. And everybody was evacuating down one road. And we didn't move for 30 minutes as we watched the flames coming closer. And I finally did a U-turn, drove back towards the fire, and then found a side road away. So it's all about evacuation. And I think it's sad that when I was younger, my dream was to have a home in the country on a hillside where I could live my life in comfort. And now we all look at those hillsides. As I look at the hillside right there, the only hillside that did not burn last year is the hillside I live on. I don't look at that with comfort anymore. I look at that with fear. Whew. Stop sign. Deep breath. Jill, it's not burning. I'm telling you, it's really bad. It's really, really bad. Okay. Okay, I'm going to start crying. I can't talk about that anymore. Let's go back to IC. I don't cry about IC. I used to. I'm better now. Okay. Hello, Diana. Hello, Brenda. Karen, thank you for your prayers. It's actually over 40 people, and it'll be hundreds. It'll be hundreds when they're done. Vicky says she has mild symptoms of IC. You have more frequency urgency. I'm now taking Sister Protect and Myrbetriq. Would you like thoughts on that? Girl, that's good. So let's talk about what drives frequency urgency. So here's a side model of the bladder. So the bladder has a layer of mucus. It has about 5 layers of urothelial cells. And then underneath those cells, we've got blood vessels and we've got nerves. You have 2 different nerve groups in the bladder wall. You've got the alpha afferent nerves, which control frequency urgency, and you've got C fibers, which control pain. So the alpha afferent nerves are what are driving your symptoms right now. These are the nerves that your body uses. Oh God, you know, God, I just need to take a breath for a moment. Give me a moment here. Talking about the fire is really hard. It's just really, really hard. It's just like once a day, you just have a little moment where you just pray for the people and the animals. I know it's not as bad as last year, but if you were here and you could see all the smoke outside my window and smell it, we've been smelling it for a week and hearing all these stories, it's really hard. Let me go get a Kleenex. I'll be right back. I'm a human just like everybody else. Hold on. Good night. I'm telling you. Sorry about that, but you know what? I'm not going to apologize. It's hard. It's hard. We are living in a very scary world right now out here, and every time a siren goes off, we look up, and I have to do my stop sign deep breath. Brings up an important question. Where does the support group leader go for support? Because, you know, we need support too. So I want to thank you right now for being my support, because I need it too. So, this is what life in California is like right now. It's like, it's right there. It's really hard. Okay, so let's get back to those questions. Alpha afferent nerves. So why do you have frequency urgency? Because you've got alpha afferent nerves. These are the nerves that you use 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. These are the nerves that tell you when you need to pee. They're meant to be easy to turn on. So whenever you have a flare, the first symptom that you get is going to be frequency urgency. And the last symptom to go away is going to be frequency urgency. So how are these nerves being stimulated? Well, something is irritating them up here. Either you don't have a lot of mucus, and so the Cysto Protect you're taking is giving you an extra protective layer. So that's really, really good. I would look at your food. Maybe you're eating something, caffeine turning nerves on that could cause issues, stuff like that. It just may be there may be something consistent in your daily life that is irritating and provoking those nerves. The Mirbitrick might help. But I would also look at your pelvic floor. Remember, we have this question: when is your pain the worst? Before you pee or after you're done peeing? If you have pain and more frequency urgency as your bladder is filling with urine that is relieved by urination, that's pointing to something in your bladder that's provoking it, probably diet. If you have pain after you're done peeing, that's probably your pelvic floor. If you feel worse afterwards, if you hate peeing because you know you're going to feel bad when you pee, that's really going to point us instead to your pelvic floor. Sonia says she can't take Elmeron because her body rejects it. Yeah, a lot of people can't take Elmeron. It's one of the hardest medications. Amanda, on our website, right on the front page, we have a blog that talks about the Elmeron eye issues. If you could go over there, read that blog. We have at the bottom of it a link to our survey. We would love for you to have our survey. I will tell you that chronic dry eyes is one of the dominant symptoms of patients with this. But I also have chronic dry eye, and I've never taken Elmeron. So can we relate that to Elmeron? I don't know. But it's certainly something that lots of people are reporting on. As Sonia says, has anyone else have good results from echinacea too? I've heard good things about echinacea, and most importantly, most IC patients don't flare with it, and so it might be worth a try. However, be very careful of rose hips. Be very careful of what is that vitamin C thing that people take when they're going to get on a plane? You got to be really careful of that. That's definitely going to provoke symptoms. Sean's tired of getting medications denied by insurance. Yeah. Write your senator, write your congressman. We got to work on that. It's just not fair that, you know the history of that. In fact, there was just an article yesterday, I think on the Washington Post or on CNN, one of them, or New York Times. It all started in the 1980s. In the 1980s. And this is an example of lobbying at its worst. Apparently, pharmaceutical manufacturers were lobbying the Senate and Congress to try to get pricing controls removed. Because in other countries like Canada and Europe, drug companies have to negotiate a price with the government. They cannot just arbitrarily raise a price. It has to be negotiated. And that's the way it was in the United States until late 70s, early 80s, somewhere in there. Some congressman accepted a wad of money from a pharmaceutical company and launched a bill removing pricing controls. And then the pharmaceutical lobbyists started paying off lots of people. And guess what? They got their bill passed and they got their bill signed. I think it was signed by Reagan. And that's exactly why we have drug costs absolutely out of control. And our only hope is to get that law passed again. And it's not going to happen, unfortunately, at this moment, but perhaps in the next administration it can have. But at least people now are acknowledging that the cost of medication is absolutely ridiculous. Elmeron, for example, when it first came out, was like $75 a prescription. Now it's like $1,500 to $2,000 a prescription. Why? Well, greed. I think it's greed. You will notice that also the Janssen Pharmaceuticals, the company that makes Elmeron, has not been involved in the IC community for a decade or longer. All that money that used to go for patient support, patient outreach, doctor education, now just goes to profits. It's a profit-making industry, and it's a tragedy. It's really sad when people have to choose between medicine and food. And that's where we are right now, or medicine and death. It's not right. And we all need to be pissed off and outraged and speaking out about it, because it's not okay. Can mold exposure cause IC? If yes, what is the treatment for it? Lab showed mycotoxin in the urine. Holy moly, girl. You'll have to talk with a mold specialist on that. I don't have any data at all that shows that mold exposure, like black mold, has been linked to bladder symptoms, but I know that Candida has absolutely been linked to bladder symptoms by our own National Institutes of Health. We now know that many patients struggling with IC flares actually have Candida infections, overgrowth of fungi in their urine. And that came out a couple years ago. You can find that blog on our website. It's like 3 years ago. But hold on a sec. Let me look. I'm just curious. Mold. And I'm just going to the National Library of Medicine. Let's just see if they have anything on it real quick. Well, it's certainly going to provoke. So it's going to provoke a lot of mast cell issues, and we know that patients with allergies are going to have a flare during allergy season. And this is what it says here: common mold symptoms: coughing, wheezing, nose stuffiness, itchiness, red eyes, headaches, exhausted, coughing, sinusitis, allergic reactions, colds, fever, breathing. Long-term mold exposure can also lead to hair loss, anxiety, confusion or memory loss, numbness in hands or feet, stomach pain, sensitivity to light, gaining weight, muscle cramping. It can cause seasonal allergies, asthma, cystic fibrosis, weakened immune system, COPD, and immunodisorders. Holy moly. Nothing about urinary symptoms, but it wouldn't surprise me, because we certainly know that that an allergic reaction in the bladder is going to be manifested in the body. Is going to be manifested in the bladder in the form of the release of histamines, and histamines are going to provoke bladder irritation. So I think you can make a case for that. Alisa, what was the name of the class I took? Phobies. Phobies. Phobease. It's an older class. I took it 20 years ago. You can still find some of the old anxiety management materials on Amazon. They look like old photocopies. That's what we had back then. But the content is solid. And I keep thinking I should call that doctor if I can find him and see if I can reprint some of it, because I really love it. Amanda says she has another UTI, very bloated from IBS and bad flares from stress. You have 3 children and bills, and the holidays are stressing you. Girl, hugs. I know, it's hard. Doesn't help arguing with your boyfriend and then having no family to turn to, no friends. Well, girl, you got friends here. Reach out, see if you can find IC patients near you, and create a little buddy system. Everybody needs their IC support group, their IC buddies. So when you come online, go to the IC network and go to our support forum, or go into your Facebook groups and ask if anybody lives near you. See if you can make some friends and help each other out during your flares. But with your UTI, I would really strongly, if you keep getting urinary tract infections over and over and over, then we have to know that traditional urine testing is flawed. It will only grow out 1% of the potential pathogens. And so it may be missing the infection that you're getting over and over. And so this is when you want to do something called next generation DNA testing. Next generation DNA testing. If you just come to bladderhealth.org, that's a website I built this summer. So I've been working with this company now for not quite a year, maybe 10 months. Very, very impressed with the results. As we had in our last meeting, we had another IC patient come in, and this test found a very difficult drug-resistant infection that they were able to treat, and she is much, much better. And the other thing, Manda, that I think you really need to look at is look at the FODMAP diet, FODMAP, the FODMAP diet. Look at the foods you're eating and see if you're eating foods that are high in FODMAPs. Now, and I'll give you an example. My IC is really good right now. For the most part, it's compared to where it was before. I mean, I'm steady, I'm functional, I can do most of what I need to do. But this summer, I became in love with the farmer's market, and I went every Saturday morning, and I bought peaches and nectarines and plums, because when it's a ripe peach, it's pretty IC friendly, right? If it's not a ripe peach, the riper the fruit, the higher the sugar, the lower the acid. But if you get unripe fruit, it's much more acidic and potentially irritating. So I just kind of fell in love with the super ripe fruit. I was making a lot of peach pies, stuff like that. What I noticed is I started getting a lot more gassy and having a lot more kind of random IBS attacks. And it was my sister who also has IC and IBS, but she's dealing with a lot of stomach issues that I haven't been dealing with. Her doctor told her to go on the FODMAP diet, and now she's much, much better. And then I started having issues, so I was talking to her about what she was doing, and then I was looking at it. What's like at the top of the list is stone fruits, peaches. And I was wondering, and now that I'm not eating them, I'm not having the IBS like I was before. So I would educate yourself a little bit about FODMAP. FODMAP. Hi, Shelly, you're not too far from us. You're rescuing your kids from the fires. Yeah. Oh, where are you going, hon? I'd be interested to hear where you're going. So Sonia, again, if you get chronic UTIs that are not showing up, you got to have this test. It's only $199. I mean, guys, 2 years ago, this was thousands of dollars to do. It is now super inexpensive. And this will tell you concretely the good bacteria in your bladder, the bad bacteria in your bladder, and if you have any fungal infections. So why not get a check? You got nothing to lose. Diana talking a little bit about anxiety, that you can certainly also ask for help with some medication, such as Ativan, lorazepam. I will tell you that my first years with IC, I took hydroxyzine, also known as Vistaril. And Vistaril has a very nice anti-anxiety beneficial side effect. And I think that's also one of the reasons that kind of helped me get through the first couple of years. Definitely. Maria mentions a product called Uralive. Never heard of that before. Let me look at that real quick. Interesting. Uralive has, oh, hon, you can't take Uralive. That's got cranberry. It's got a massive amount of cranberry in it. That's really going to hurt your IC. I would not do the Uralive. Instead, what you want to do is do D-mannose. D-mannose is the active ingredient from cranberry, but without the acid of the cranberry. So Maria, I would pass on the Uralive for patients with IC. Diana mentions doing ginger. The ginger is great for helping to prevent colds and flu. I made pork. I do Hello Fresh to cook for my parents, and we did pork meatballs with ginger in them last night. They were really good. Sean asks, any tips for dealing with insurance when they deny Urabel? Sean, it really depends upon what the reason for denial is. If it's not on their formulary, you're blank out of luck. If the company has a drug assistance program and you meet their income requirements, you might be able to qualify for that. We have on our website in our IC section all the drug assistance programs for the typical IC medications. But that's why we go to supplements, because supplements are incredibly affordable. They're all usually under $50 for a month or two. And you don't have to worry about being denied in that way. Melanie says she's worried about pregnancy and taking vitamins. You know, Melanie, number one, we do have a low acid vitamin called Multirite that some patients have used. However, it is, I don't know of any vitamin that has been tested for pregnancy, safety during pregnancy. So that's something you're going to need to talk to your doctor about, your gynecologist about. But we have a pregnancy support forum on our website. It's been there for almost 15 years, and many, many patients have shared their vitamin strategies there, what they were able to use safely for their bladder. So go on over to the IC network, go into our support forum, and you will find a forum called Considering Pregnancy and I'm Pregnant, and go through there and search for vitamins, and you'll see those discussions. And again, Maria, urea live is not appropriate for somebody with IC subtype 1 or IC subtype 2 because of the cranberry. You cannot do it. You should not do that. Instead, you should be doing D-mannose and maybe just taking a probiotic, but throwing the cranberry in there is absolutely going to trigger more flares for some patients. If they didn't have cranberry in it, it'd be fine. Unfortunately, they got cranberry in it. All right, so Crystal has a very, very good question. She says, as someone who's recently diagnosed with mild IC, she doesn't feel pain to the degree that other people do. She has more a sensation of pressure down there and an occasional frequent urge to urinate. And she asks, is this something that can get worse? And number two, can taking pre-leaf be a regular thing for food intake? So I want to answer the second one first, and that is, do not go to town on pre-leaf. You know, you only want to take it when you're eating a risk food. You shouldn't be popping it like candy, because it can lead to calcium-based kidney stones if you're vulnerable. Okay, so you know, as with all medications out there, my approach has always been finding the lowest effective dose rather than the highest effective dose, being modest and moderate. I don't operate from a more is better perspective. I just don't. But, hun, we have something far more important to discuss with you, and that is the subtypes of IC. It's important that you understand that we no longer think of IC as a bladder disease, an incurable bladder disease. We don't. Okay, why? Because we now know that structures outside the bladder are typically involved. So, here, I'm just moving my computer around a little bit. So, and so why? Okay, why is that true? Well, you kind of mentioned it there. You don't have the pain as other people do. If you were to go to any support group, you would see tremendous diversity in the IC patient population. You've got some patients whose bladders look like this, others with completely normal bladders. Both of us could be diagnosed with IC, yet clearly we're not the same. You've got some patients with terrible pain, others with no pain. Both diagnosed with IC, yet clearly they're very different. And when you actually ask patients what triggered their symptoms, that's where you really see the diversity. Because for some patients, IC begins after a fall, hurting their tailbone. For others, it can begin after an infection. For others, IC can begin in childhood. For others, IC can begin when they're menopausal. Clearly, there's tremendous diversity here. And if there's one thing we know, that it's a one treatment fits all approach does not work, period. It does not work. So what doctors have been doing for the last 5 to 7 to 10 years is they've been trying to understand these unique variations. And so in Europe, for example, there are 16 variations of quote unquote icy bladder pain. In Canada, they use 5 or 6. No, they use 6. They use the U-point system. In the United States, we have not agreed yet nationally on a quote subtyping system, but I use a subtyping system that was created by Dr. Christopher Payne, who ran the IC research program at Stanford University. And he wrote, when he introduced this a couple years ago, he wrote an amazing article where he said, we should treat IC patients like cancer patients. And, you know, of course, as soon as you say cancer, you go, what the hell? Now, come on, there's no relationship between IC and cancer. And that's true. There's no relationship between IC and cancer. But he said, yeah, but think about it. When someone is diagnosed with cancer, they get a really specific diagnosis. Man, it's cancer of the left breast. It is estrogen dependent type 1, 2, 3, yada, yada, yada. Or for me last year, it was complex endometrial hyperplasia with atypia and a vague architectural complex. In other words, early uterine cancer. That diagnosis was so specific. We knew exactly what to do to save my life, a hysterectomy. Okay, and he says, the problem with the diagnosis of IC is it does not give you an intuitive pathway. It does not tell you intuitively what therapy you should do next. It doesn't tell you, and it doesn't tell your doctor what to do next. So how can we get that specificity? We get it with some subtyping. Let's try to create a more specific diagnosis for you. Okay, so let's review his subtyping system here really quick. IC subtype 1 Hunner's lesions. So these are the patients with big, bloody bladder walls. They've got profuse, if they look in their bladder and they stretch their bladder, it bleeds so profusely, it's called a waterfall effect. It's a waterfall of blood. They bleed terribly. And when we biopsy lesions, they are completely different from everyone else. They are filled with massive amounts of inflammation, as if there is a fight going on. And in fact, there may indeed be a fight going on, because we have now traced in some patients lesions to viral infections. Okay, that is not you. We can walk away from that for you, because you would have pain and you do not have pain. And this is not progressive in that way. So let's go to IC subtype 2, bladder wall deriven. So these are the patients who have basically the equivalent of a bladder wall injury. And again, if we look at our demo here, and you have to think about it this way, the bladder is the only organ in the human body designed to hold toxic waste, because urine is body waste. Urine contains ammonia and urea. So how can the bladder hold toxins for hours at a time and not get damaged? And that is because your bladder has a nice, thick, protective coating of mucus. So your bladder is like your mouth. It is a hollow organ covered with mucus. Here, let me move this light here. If it's getting dark, it's because of the smoke out there. So, okay. So our bladder relies on this nice, thick coating of mucus. If that mucus is damaged, look what happens. The irritants in urine reach the cells underneath it. And that's where bad things happen. It's an inflammation. So whatever's in your urine, whether it's acid, whether it's a carcinogen, if you're a smoker, all the byproducts of cigarette smoke end up in your bladder wall. And that's why cigarette smoking is the #1 cause of bladder cancer. So we know your bladder wall is driving your symptoms if you have pain as your bladder fills with urine that is relieved by urination. So the fuller you get, the worse you feel. And when you pee, you feel better. So this is an example of a bladder with bladder wall injury. So think about it. As it fills with urine, urine finds all those wounds and goes into those wounds and provokes pain and discomfort. And then when you pee, bam, they're not provoking it anymore. That's why you get a sense of relief. It might only be for a couple of minutes, but it's definitely there. It's a sense of relief. So if you have pain as your bladder fills with urine that is relieved by urination, that points to your bladder wall. We don't call it pressure. Pressure is not necessarily a symptom of bladder wall driven. See, again, it's the smoke, guys. I'm sorry. We're going to go to our next subtype. Oh, you know what? Where's my air? Is my air thing? Oh, it is. Here, hold on. All right. My air filter is on. That's good. Let's go to the next subtype, because this is probably your subtype. I see subtype 3, pelvic floor driven. These are the patients who have the equivalent of a muscle injury or a muscle trauma. So if you think about it this way, and where is my demo? Where is it? Yeah, I can use this. Okay. So look, here's your pelvic floor. Your pelvic floor muscles go from left to right, they go from front to back, and they go from low to high. And their purpose is to hold your organs in place, right? And they're the only major muscle structure in your body that have holes in it to let pee out and to let a penis in and to let poop out, right? Or, well, you know what I mean. You know, there were days when I used to be academic and say urination and defecation. Yeah, I don't do that so much anymore. It's just easier to just be blunt. Okay, so here's your pelvic floor. And in fact, you can see that there's kind of a gap in it that allows stuff in and out. If your pelvic floor is tight, here's what happens, right? It starts squeezing everything in it. And unfortunately, what happens is when the muscles get tight, they start impeding blood flow. So, and you can prove it yourself. So like grab your wrist and squeeze for like 5 seconds and let it go. And look, you can see that the blood flow has been pushed away. And when you release it, the blood flow comes back. That's what tight pelvic floor muscles do. They restrict blood flow to the bladder. And that's why you can get bladder symptoms. But there are other subtle variations with pelvic floor symptoms. With bladder wall symptoms, you get a lot of highs and lows. Bladder wall pain tends to be very sharp and shrill. For me, it felt like razor blades in my bladder or sharp nails, you know, rubbing down my bladder wall. Pelvic floor is lower in the belly. It's achier in the belly. It's steadier. It's duller, and it has a burning quality to it. So if you feel vaginal burning, or you feel like you're carrying a heavy bowling ball around in your pelvis, or there's a sense of heaviness or a sense of pressure, that really points to a pelvic floor issue, that their pelvic floor muscles could in fact be driving your symptoms, Crystal. It's a possibility. It's an absolute possibility. Patients get stuck in what I call the chicken versus the egg dilemma. Which comes first, the chicken or the egg? And for us, it's which comes first, the bladder and the pelvic floor. If your symptoms began with a bladder injury, so let's say you went through chemotherapy and hurt your bladder, then because your bladder's pulsing, right, your muscles are going to get tight in a guarding reflex to protect it. That's the way we're wired. Our body tries to protect us from pain by freezing, by kind of slowing things down. For those patients, our treatment priority is to calm and soothe the bladder wall, because when we calm and soothe the bladder wall and get it and reduce that pain, the muscles will release. However, if you're in the opposite group, it's a much different story. If your symptoms began after having a baby or a fall, you are in this situation where, so if we use this as an example of your bladder, where your muscles are clamped down like this, right? Your muscles are clamped down like this. And eventually, after that muscle injury, your bladder starts to talk to you. It starts giving you the symptoms of frequency, urgency, pressure, pain. Now, of course, you have no idea you've got tight muscles. You think you have infection. You go to the doctor goes, yeah, you probably do have infection. Let's give you some antibiotics. The antibiotics don't work. Or they might work a little tiny bit. You might feel slightly better because they have an anti-inflammatory effect. But ultimately, it doesn't solve the problem. You go back to the doctor goes, oh, maybe you've got overactive bladder. They give you overactive bladder meds like Detrol or Ditropan. They don't work. You go back to the doctor goes, oh, maybe you got IC, and they give you Elmeron and other IC meds. And they don't work. And the reality is none of them are going to work because the problem is poor blood flow from tight muscles. And so our therapeutic priority for IC subtype 3 is to relax the muscles and restore blood flow. When we restore blood flow, the bladder gets the nourishment, the oxygen, and the nutrients it needs to be healthy again. So what's so interesting now is this really common belief that the largest IC subtype is not bladder wall. The largest IC subtype is, in fact, pelvic floor. That the majority of you out there actually probably have some sort of muscle injury that is driving your symptoms. So, Crystal, on our website, we have a video that talks about the 5 subtypes. There are 2 more subtypes. IC subtype 4, pudendal neuralgia. These are the patients not with a bladder injury, not with a muscle injury, but with a nerve injury. And so this is characterized by feeling like you're being shocked, right? There's a strong shock sensation. And their symptoms are movement driven. You're fine when you stand, but when you sit down, it hurts, or you bend over, it hurts, or when you squat down, it hurts. So for these patients, our therapeutic priority is to protect the nerves, relax muscles if muscles are contributing to nerves being compromised, et cetera, et cetera. And then we have IC subtype 5, central sensitization. These are the people like me. This is my fundamental subtype where we've inherited a very, very sensitive nervous system. So it's not just our bladder that's sensitive. It's our skin, it's our stomach, it's our bowel, it's our vulva. And for us, we don't, this is not a disease for many of us. This is the active inheritance. And we are born with a more sensitive nervous system. And life is hard in 2018 when your body's designed for life 5,000 years ago. And anyway, I've talked about this in a lot of other lectures. I don't need to talk about it again here. I would just, if you have questions about it, you're welcome to call me and I'd be happy to talk to you about it. But central sensitization is real. There's a ton of IC patients who have it. And the odds are they already know they're sensitive. They've already eliminated chemicals out of their home. They're already living in a fairly quiet environment. Anyway, I can go on and on about that. I just don't want to. But again, for Crystal, for you, let's look back at what you wrote. You were just diagnosed with a mild form of IC. You don't feel any pain as some do. You just have a pressure down there and an occasional frequent urge to urinate. Girl, I'd bet you 2 to 1 that you actually have a muscle injury. And if I were you, I would go to your OBGYN, go back to your urologist and have them do a very quick pelvic floor assessment and see if your muscles are tight. Because if they are, bladder treatments are not going to fix that. What's going to fix that is pelvic floor physical therapy. And pelvic floor physical therapy works beautifully. So check it out, okay? And also, guys, you know what? I have a freebie for you, but I only have one. I only have one. Who would like the book, The IC Solution? This is the most current book. This is the best book that we have right now. It is a book that explains the bladder pelvic floor connection. And so, how do I pick who gets this? Eee. I don't know. Okay. We're going to do it by numbers. Guys, we're doing it by a number. You're going to pick a number between 1 and 100. I have just written down the number. I can't show it to you because then you'll know what it is. I'm putting it right here on my computer. Whoever comes closest to the number will get it. So what I want you to do is send me, oh, where's my email? All right. Send me your name and a mailing address to icnetwork@mac.com and pick a number between 1 and 100. And whoever comes closest to the number that I have written down right here will get it. And for those of you who don't get it, I will send you our restroom card and our diet card. I will send you our other free, I will send you these, right? This is our diet card, foods to avoid, and our restroom access card. All righty? I will pick a winner. I'll give you 2 hours to vote. 2 hours to do it. So it's 1:33. I'll pick a winner at 3:30. 3:30 my time. Okay, let's get back to your questions. Emily says, don't you need a clean catch to make sure the DNA cultures are accurate? Yeah, but they have a very specific way that instructions that they give you on how to do it, and they send you things to clean yourself with. So yes, you definitely want to have as clean of urine as you can. Guys, if you asked a question and I've missed it, just know that it's scrolling through really, really quickly. Okay, you can't just give your number. Don't just give your number in the chat. You got to send me your emails to icnetwork@mac.com with your number. And whoever gets the number first or who gets it closest will get the book, okay? Sherry says that she had IC for 15 years and she quit taking Elmeron because of her eye disease. Sherry, I don't know if you were here earlier, but we did finally get our citizens petition to the FDA accepted on eye disease with our research. We have more than 700 patients who have completed our own Elmeron research study, and we have a 53% rate of eye disease in those patients who have taken it. It's stunning, stunning data. Kellyanne, if you haven't heard that before, if you go to our website, the IC Network, there's a whole blog on it. We've been talking about it for about 2 months now. It's new research from the Emory Eye Center. Rare eye disease specialists believe that they have discovered a new eye disease that is related to long-term use of Elmeron. The question is what is long-term? In their study, it was 15 years, but in their study, they admit that they have one of their patients who only took it for 6 years. And in our study, we're seeing patients who are reporting eye disease after just 1 year of treatment. So we've got a lot more work to understand with Elmeron and what it can do. Mary says, what medicines can you take for a bladder infection that won't cause a flare? Mary, there are some antibiotics that are irritating, like Augmentin, and there are some antibiotics like Keflex, which are not irritating to the bladder. If the doctor prescribes you an antibiotic that triggers a flare, call the doctor back and tell them that you would like to try a different one. Generally, whenever you have an infection, they do something called antibiotic sensitivity testing. So they first grow it out, and then they check to see which antibiotic will kill your infection. And that's the list the doctor should be working on. Usually there's more than one. There are other options for them to try. So just be vocal and let them know. I did that with Augmentin. Augmentin killed my bladder. I called the doctor up 2 days later and said, I need another one. And they gave me Keflex and it was fine. Also, it would be very helpful if your infection is not going away to do next generation DNA testing, because this will also identify drug resistance genes, and it will give you a comprehensive list of antibiotics that will kill that infection. Lisa asked, what is the best medication for pain relief to help you get back to work? I have terrible pain when sitting for long periods of time. I'm very stressed about being ill. So Lisa, if you have pain when you're sitting for long periods of time, number one, you got to get up and move around, which I should be doing right now. In fact, you know what? I'm going to do it. Hold on. I happen to have a sit-stand desk. So let's just raise it up to a standing position. And you will see all of the stuff I got on my shelves. Let's see here. We have two different chair cushions that might make it easier for you to sit at work. The first one is the waffle cushion. This is the cushion that I like the most because I tend to have pain to the left or right of center rather than centered. And so it's pelvic floor pain, glute pain, stuff like that. So this is the cushion that I whip out, and you can blow it up yourself when you need to. But it's actually meant to not be that full. This is actually the right, even though it doesn't look like it's blown up, it is blown up because when you sit on it, you have about an inch of air underneath your butt cheeks. All right. Then the other cushion that we have, this is our bladder and prostate friendly chair cushion. And unfortunately, the smoke is so bad. Our light in here is terrible. But it has a groove down the middle, if you can see that. So when you sit on it, there you go. You can kind of see it there. When you sit on it, each butt cheek is supported, but there's nothing pushing up against your bladder. And so that might be helpful for you too. So our bladder and prostate friendly chair cushion, that might help you also. And also, you know, this is what I sit on half of the time and get out of my chair, and I sit on this instead. Also, if you've got tight pelvic floor muscles, girl, you got to be doing your stretching and working with your pelvic floor physical therapist, right? You got to figure out why sitting is hurting so much. Why is sitting bothering you so much? Alrighty then, let's see here. I wish you could see out my window. I wish you could. Let's maybe that'll help a little bit. Yeah. Okay. Sorry for the noise. It's just really hard to work when it's smoky outside. All righty. Mary's asking where you can get the answers for the meds that won't upset your IC. I will be collecting all that data and I'll be putting it on our website and in our magazines, probably in the next couple of days, if not more. Guys, we're looking for your suggestions. What works well for you when you have a cold or the flu? What can you use that's over the counter that doesn't bother your bladder? Because we did this last 10 years ago, and kind of what it came down to was Cepacol and Chloraseptic and Ricola, and then somebody had a shower bomb and Vicks VapoRub. But we have a lot of new over-the-counter stuff, and we're very curious. Is there anything out there that you've used that really helps you with your flus or colds that is bladder-friendly? We want to put together a big list of bladder-friendly stuff before cold and flu season, because colds have hit like mad out here. Cheryl asks, can you have more than one subtype? Yeah, in all likelihood, like for me, I'm IC subtype 5, central sensitization, IC subtype 3, pelvic floor. Those are my primary subtypes. My secondary subtype is, in fact, bladder wall, and that only means that occasionally my bladder wall gets triggered because my pelvic floor muscles get tight. Guys, you got the 100 comments here ahead of me. Betty said pelvic floor therapy worked until you were not able to urinate. Okay, so that means your muscles got too tight. It sounds like they might have had you doing Kegel exercises, things that tighten muscles. And in fact, that's the worst thing that we want to do. We don't want to tighten muscles. We want to relax them and then strengthen them. So it sounds like you were potentially going to a physical therapist that really didn't know what they were doing. If they had you doing Kegel exercises, then that's probably why you're struggling to pee. Nicole Kosian, Pelvic Sanity, who was our 2017 Physical Therapist of the Year, is the author of this book. And this would really, I think, help you kind of understand a little bit more about what's going on there. Lisa's reading the book right now. Awesome. I'm going to tell you right now, you're all putting your numbers in there. None of you have said the number yet. One of you is very close to the number. Hello, Julie from Pennsylvania. Oh. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Somebody said the number. All right. Crap. See, I want to do this right. Hold on. All right. We have a winner. I'm going to give it to you right now. Oh, wait. It's Sonia. Wait. It was 77. The number was 77. Sonia Rainey. Sonia Rainey, you have won the IC solution. So, Sonia, I need you to email me your or call me your address, and I will send this to you later today. Okay, but no. And anybody else, if you want our freebies, which is our diet card and our restroom access card, go ahead. You can go ahead and send me your name and address, and I will send them to you for free. icnetwork@mac.com. All righty. Congratulations, Sonia. Congratulations. You got it. I'm going to have a giveaway every, this is a good way to do it. Tammy says, what is a restroom card? A restroom card is what you can use when you're on a plane, when you're in a store and you need to use a restroom, but somebody doesn't believe you. You hand them a restroom card. It's very educational. It's a medic alert card. So it says medic alert, restroom access required. The holder of this card has a medical condition, interstitial cystitis, prostatitis, or pelvic pain that requires frequent and urgent restroom access. It is difficult, if not impossible, for this patient to, quote, hold it without enduring severe pain and or bladder spasms. Please provide restroom access to this patient. Your cooperation is greatly appreciated. Hey, Sonia, if you're my friend on Facebook, why don't you just send me your address by Facebook? I'm writing this down here because I don't want to send this to the wrong person. Sonia Rainey. All right. All righty. The email, icnetwork@mac.com. See, that was fun. I want to do that again. What else do I have anything else to give away? Hold on. What do I have that? Oh, hold on. Oh, I don't know. What do you think? Would anybody like a bottle of Cystitis? Let's do that one as a freebie right now, too. I'm liking this, guys. Come on, you're giving me something fun to do when I can't go outside. All right, so we're going to do the same thing starting. So hold on. Let me pick a number first. I'm going to write it down. What would be a good number? Okay, I have now written down another number. And this time we'll do it all online. The number is between 1 and 100. The first person on YouTube or Facebook who says that number is going to get a free bottle of Cystitis. A free bottle of Cystitis. Because this is fun, and I need some fun right now. Okay, so go ahead. And I'm going to scroll down. Deborah says, who diagnosed me with my subtypes? Actually, I used the Chris Payne system and did it myself with his help. Ravonda, can IC increase IC pain? I mean, can red meat increase IC pain? I think people would argue that yes, that it would promote more inflammation. I only eat red meat once a week or more. All right, I'm looking through numbers right now, and this is for the bottle of Cystitis. All right. We have a winner. Debbie Hall. Debbie Hall, you were the first to say 33. And Jane, you were just a fraction of a second behind with 33. All right. So Debbie Hall, you can have, I'm going to send you a bottle of Cystitis. But I need you to send me a message through Facebook if you're my Facebook friend, or you need to email me your address and your phone number, icnetwork@mac.com. Would you please do that for me? Because we do have people who might, yeah. I'm going to verify that it's you before I send it. All right. So there you go. There's some fun freebies from the IC Network. All right, let's get back to your questions. Look at all those guesses. Christine, oh my God, Christine, you were the third. Lydia, you were the fourth. Debbie Hall got it first. All right, any more questions? Any more questions, my friends? Any more questions? I will tell you that we're working right now on our fall IC magazine. It should be done in about a week. For our members, the IC Optimist magazine is our quarterly magazine for the IC Network. It offers in-depth stories that we do not put on our website. Many of them, at least half of them, do not go on our website for at least 6 months because we want our members to get all the scoop on what's happening. So you are welcome to be a member of the IC Network to get our magazine. You just go on over to our website. If you like these live video sessions, I really need you to like our Facebook page and subscribe to our YouTube channel and tell your friends about it. You know, I was really struggling with what to do with Facebook because I find Facebook a pretty frustrating platform. It's pretty angry. People tend to say things that they would never say face-to-face. And so I shut down our Facebook page earlier this year, and then I had to turn it back on for a clinical trial, and I was just agonizing what to do with Facebook. And then I thought, wait a second, you're a support group leader. Be a support group leader, for God's sake. And so that's when we started testing these online meetings. The IC Network, we did online meetings on our website for 15 years, but they were chat meetings. They were not video meetings. And so now our videos have been seen 80, 90,000 times, just these live chats. And then our other Living with IC videos have been seen more than 1 million times by IC patients. We've been doing those for about a decade now over on YouTube too. So our Living with IC video series is something that can help you and your family members understand IC. And if they don't believe you, and if you've never met another IC patient, I'm really, really happy to be that patient that you get to meet for the first time. All right, guys, did I miss anything? Did I miss any questions? Let me look here. Oh, look at that. It's a miracle. Yeah, it let me scroll back. Teresa says, my pain is not in my bladder, it's in my urethra. What is causing it burning? Okay, Teresa, that is an excellent question. So urethra pain, I have a really good blog on our website called The 7 Causes of Urethral Pain. And so I hope that you will come over to the IC Network and come over to ic-network.com and search for that blog, The 7 Causes of Urethral Pain. But let me give you a rundown on it real quick. So remember our model. This is our model for the bladder, right? It's got a nice protective coating and then a layer of skin cells. Well, this is true not only for your bladder, but for your urethra. Your urethra also relies on mucus, just like your vulva and your vagina does, and your mouth. These are mucus membrane covers. God, it's just crazy. All right. So all of those organs rely on a nice thick coating of mucus. Now, unfortunately, mucus production is estrogen dependent. So when you're young and you have lots of estrogen, you have lots of mucus. But when you're older and you have less estrogen, you have less mucus. So the very first thing that we really have to find out is, are you perimenopausal or menopausal? Because the first part of the urinary tract to react to the loss of estrogen is usually the urethra. So what are the symptoms of, we call it the genitourinary syndrome of menopause in the urethra? You feel like you've got a drop of urine stuck in your urethra that won't come out. Your urethra gets very irritated. Yeah, that's pretty much it. It's just very, very irritated. When you have urethral pain, there are moments when you're just doing something random and you get like this sharp stabbing pain in your urethra that's very quick. That also it is fairly common. So Teresa, the very first thing that I would want to know is, what is your let's see here. What is your age? For me, it happened when I was 51, and they gave me an estrogen cream that I rub at the entrance to my urethra, and within 5 days, that symptom was gone. About a pea-sized drop of estrogen cream just rubbed right at the entrance to your urethra can help that. But the other thing we have to think, too, of is just remember that if you don't have a lot of mucus, chemicals can get in. And so urethral pain is really notorious and commonly triggered by fabric softener, by laundry sheets, by the soap that you're using, by a spermicide. So we want to withdraw any and all chemicals. We don't want you douching, anything at all like that. Yeah, it's just getting dark again. It's crazy. It's 2 o'clock and it's dark outside. This is wacky. Really, really wacky. So sorry, I'm trying to make the lighting work in here. Let's see if that'll work. Does that work? All right. Well, we'll try that. All righty. So let's step away from all the chemicals. We want to avoid any chemicals that could be irritating your urethra. And also we want to look at pelvic floor dysfunction. Do you have tight muscles that are squeezing and compromising your urethra? That's certainly a possibility too. So come on over to our website, the IC Network, ic-network.com, and look for that blog. The 7 causes of urethral burning and irritation, you might find that. Also, I will tell you that one of the key differences between bladder wall flare, bladder wall injury, and infection is urethral pain. Bladder wall injury usually does not cause urethral pain as much as infection does. So we might want to get infection ruled out also. Julie gets her estrogen cream from a compounding pharmacy. So do I. I use the Women's International Pharmacy, women'sinternational.com. They specialize in custom preservative-free estrogen products, women'sinternational.com. They don't pay me. They don't even know I'm saying this. It's a company that my doctor told me to use, and I have found them exceptionally good when it comes to estrogen products. Norma says, the first time I urinate after walking for a half an hour, my urethra doesn't seem all the way open and it burns when you urinate. Norma, is it burning inside or outside? Inside or outside? If it's burning inside your urethra after you walk, that's really points to muscles. Anytime movement triggers your symptoms, what's happening when you're moving is muscles are moving. And so that makes me think that you've got something going on with your muscles. If the pain is external, if the pain is on your vulva, as you're burning and you're getting, quote, urine burn, that again goes to the genitourinary syndrome of menopause, that you don't have enough mucus. Therefore, urine is irritating the skin, and what would be very useful is a perineal wash bottle, rinsing yourself off with water before you use toilet paper to get all the chemicals off of your vulva and off of your skin. Sonia says, pork has irritated your IC. I've never heard anybody saying pork has irritated their IC. Usually it's a sauce on the meat that tends to trigger more irritation. You got to be really careful with sauces like A1 steak sauce, stuff like that. Those are wicked, wicked triggers. All right, guys. Well, we've been on for an hour and 45 minutes. I'm happy to take any other questions. Normally do these for 2 minutes. If you've got any, for 2 hours. Any last call for questions? Last call for questions. Feel free to ask them. Happy to do it. Happy to do it. You can barely see our hillsides right now. There's so much smoke. Sorry, I'm just the fire queen right now. That's my stress talking. Last call for questions. Last call for questions. I always end these meetings with something that's very, very important. I want you to remember that IC is not your fault. You have done absolutely nothing wrong. There is no shame. There is no blame. This does not make you a lesser person in any way, shape, or form. I don't want you to do what I did when I was first diagnosed. I really thought that I was damaged goods. I really thought that I was unlovable. I thought no one would want me. I cannot begin to tell you how difficult it was, except you already know how difficult it was. When the research that came out started creating the foundation for central sensitization, that is when, and I'm not even saying this right. Okay, so let me explain it in a different way. I'm IC subtype 5 central sensitization. My life is a testimony to having sensitive nerves, and it never made sense. So I had vulvodynia in high school and lots of quote-unquote yeast infections. I had ovarian cysts in college. At my first federal job, I got irritable bowel like mad. I could barely eat. I had diarrhea all the time. Then I got migraines. Then I got this. Then I got that. And then when I was 32, I got bladder pain, right? And so all through my 20s, I didn't understand any of it. It didn't make sense to me. All I knew was that I had friends who were happy, dating, getting married. And I was stuck at home laying in the fetal position every morning with terrible bowel spasms. And that went on for years and years and years. And I became profoundly depressed because of that. None of it made sense. I really, truly thought that it was my fault. I truly thought that I was being punished. And even went to grad school, got a degree in psychology and went on there and was very successful in my academics. But deep down on the inside, I was really, really struggling. And it didn't make sense. I didn't understand any of it until it was Jack, I forget his last name, at the University of Maryland, in some of his early IC studies, started exploring the role of genetics. And what he found was that there was often a family connection in a pretty big group of patients. And I thought, well, wait a second. My sister has this. My mother has this. My grandmother had this. My aunt, my cousin. Holy smoke, wait a second. You mean it's not my fault? Life-changing. Life-changing. And then we understand that more about central sensitization. And I carried this heavy weight and burden for a decade. And I don't want anybody to do that. Please, please, please don't do that. You have done nothing wrong. You are a lovely woman and man. IC does not change your ability to love your partner, or to be a mother, or to be a daughter, or to be a sister, or to be a brother, or to be a father, or to be a son, or to be a friend. I had a doctor say to me, the moment that woke me up was when I had a doctor say to me, you will forever be a burden on your family. I was 32 years old, in agony at the emergency room. And I had a doctor say, you will forever be a burden on your family. And that was what I needed. And I went, wait a second, you son of a bitch. How dare you say that to me? I got 3 college degrees. I've got an award from the White House. I was a presidential fellow, for God's sake. I got my hands. I got my legs. I will prove you wrong, you son of a bitch. How dare you say that to me? And that was the moment that I started fighting. I started fighting for my life. I started fighting back. I started getting involved. Instead of suffering in silence at home, laying in my bed in the fetal position, I got up. I started my first support group for my bed, to be quite honest, September 1993. And within 10 months, we were doing our first IC conference. And so I don't want you to carry any shame or any blame. Please don't, because you've done nothing wrong. You're no different than someone who was hit by a car. You deserve love and support and caring for your family. If you have a family member who was just broke a leg, you'd be at the hospital with them. You'd be at the doctor with them. You'd be at home. You'd be fixing food for them. You would be changing the TV channel for them. You would be doing everything you could for them because they were hurt. Well, guess what? You deserve the same love and care. And so please, if you're suffering in silence at home alone, ask for help. Tell your family you need their help. Tell your family you need their support. You deserve it. You deserve somebody going with you to the doctor's office. I once had an IC patient, her name was Linda, in my local group here, whose husband never believed her. And she ended up at the emergency room by herself, and they ended up doing a completely inappropriate appendectomy. And she called me, and I went down. And you don't deserve that. You deserve family who will be with you. You ask them to be with you. You ask them to help you. But you also have to help yourself. And so I've got 3 things that I tell patients to do every single day. Number 1, you got to do something for your soul. I don't care what it is, but it's got to give you comfort. Whether it is going and walking through redwoods, as I have been known to do, whether it is going to church, watching Joel Osteen, whatever, 15 minutes a day, do something that gives you comfort. Then I need you to do something every day for your bladder or your pelvic floor. Whether it is driving by Starbucks rather than stopping at Starbucks, whether it is making an IC-friendly food, whether it is taking a warm bath to relax your pelvic floor. If you've got tight pelvic floor muscles, you got to take hot showers twice a day. We got to really work on relaxing these muscles, or do your exercises, or go out and walk. Come on, every day, 15 minutes, do something that for your pelvis. And then every day for 15 minutes, I need you to do something for your noggin, something for your brain, man. I need you to build your knowledge level up so that you can walk into any doctor's office ready to engage in a really good, strong discussion about your treatment options. So if you've got Hunner's lesions, you're going to walk in knowing they're treated in 3 ways. They're treated with fulguration laser therapy, they're treated with a triamcinolone injection, or they're treated with Lyris. So if you've got a doctor who says, hey, I'm going to give you Elmeron for your lesion, you're going to say, no, you're not, because that's what the American Urology Association does not say that. The American Urology Association says we're going to do it 3 ways. So I want you to, once a day, come to our website. Again, it's the IC Network, ic-network.com. We are rated #1 on the web by Harvard Medical School and the University of London. I personally curate all the information on our website. I want you to read 1 blog a day, like the blog, The 7 Causes of Urethral Irritation, or just read 1 section, okay? Let's get your knowledge level up there. It's amazing the number of patients that I talk with who were diagnosed 20 years ago, and they haven't read a thing. They have no idea about the subtypes. They have no idea about new treatments. So, you can't hide from it. Come on, let's just get in, read that information so that you can really be a really good, strong partner with your doctor as we try things to get you better, because that is our goal, to get you better, right? Right. All right. So let's see. Denise says, I have a Hunner's lesion and we'll have my 2nd procedure, a steroid injection. Have you heard any more about when Lyris will be available? No, I have not. I saw the international marketing director at AUA in May. He told me to email him in 3 months. I emailed him 3 months on the dot. I have not gotten a response. I do not know what is happening with Lyris, and I'm frustrated. Also, I will tell you that we are trying to figure out why Cystistat has been, and DMSO have been discontinued in Canada and Europe. The manufacturer, Mylan Pharmaceuticals, is the most hated pharmaceutical company in the world for what they do with pricing, and they have ceremoniously stopped producing these medications with no notice, explanation, or discussion with the patient community, and it's infuriating, absolutely infuriating. Lydia does pelvic floor work, and they help. Good. We have several really, really good books with pelvic floor issues. Stay. If you do struggle with pelvic floor issues, I've got Heal Pelvic Pain by Amy Stein. This is a book for men and women who struggle with pelvic floor issues. Amy also has a DVD called Healing Pelvic and Abdominal Pain that we have on our website in our shop. Ending Female Pain by Isa Herrera. Isa Herrera is an outstanding book. It is chock full of things that you can do to work on your pelvic floor. I've mentioned this in every chat that one of the things that you can do when you're having a pelvic floor tension is to squat down. It's called the prayer squat. So if you're at the bank and you start feeling your pelvic floor pulling, drop your keys and squat down for a couple seconds, just like she's doing that in that picture there. And what that does is that puts your pelvic floor muscles exactly where they need to be. And we also have the same book for men, Ending Male Pelvic Pain, using male models, talking specifically about male anatomy, right? So look at these two. Denise says, what do you think about biologic drugs being given for IC and or Hunner's? What are you referring to, Denise? Are you referring to stem cells? Sonia says, is Elmeron injections into the bladder good? No. We don't inject Elmeron into the bladder wall, but they can do an Elmeron installation where they combine Elmeron with some lidocaine and they put it in your bladder through a catheter. And that is called a rescue installation. It can be an Elmeron lidocaine or a heparin lidocaine bladder installation, and that can be remarkably helpful for IC in terms of putting a protective coating in there, as well as calming the nerves down without the Elmeron becoming systemic and potentially causing the eye damage that we're seeing with oral Elmeron. So rescue installations, heparin, lidocaine installations, Elmeron lidocaine installations are the top treatment for IC subtype 2 bladder wall driven and or for anyone in a flare. Hello, Brenda. Thank you for joining us. Hi, Gina. Denise on YouTube, you asked what biologic drugs. If you could tell me which ones you're referring to, that's great. Stem cell therapy, if we're referring to stem cell therapy for IC, the doctor that was researching that is Dr. Elliot Lander at the California Stem Cell Institute. And unfortunately, the challenge with stem cell therapy is that it is incredibly expensive. Because there's no pharmaceutical company that can patent it. And so it's what we call patient-funded research, where patients have to go in and pay up to $10,000 to have it done. His early data showed that, so what they did is they did fat-derived stem cells. So they did a liposuction, they took some fat off of your belly, and then they isolated something called stromal vascular fraction, which contains both stem cells and growth factors. And then they put that back in the body, and they did find that that was helpful for some patients, but it was not durable. That means is it did not last for a long period of time. It was short. And as a consequence, patients, it would just be way, way too expensive. And so the early data he presented as a poster session at the West Coast, at a West Coast meeting of the American Urology Association. I did an article on it. It's in our magazine. So for those of you who are members of the IC network, you can go back and look at your back issues on your member page to see if you can find that article. The other thing that he did that was much more promising is delivering Elmeron to the bladder wall through liposomes. Liposomes are small hollow tubes, small hollow spheres that are kind of an oily-based substance that they put medicine in, and then it crossed through the bladder wall. So he was putting Elmeron in liposomes and then putting those in the bladder, and that was incredibly successful. He was very happy with that, but he couldn't get the company to buy into it. The company wasn't really willing to invest more money. And as a consequence, that also has kind of died out. I was just told yesterday that the compounding pharmacy that was making it has now gone out of business. So that is no longer available, I see. Serena, I've been suffering from IC for over 10 years. You're having your first bladder installation on Thursday. You're looking for support. All right, so Serena, do you know what they're doing? Do you know what your installation is going to be? You know, you never want to just let a doctor do an installation. You want to know what it is. You can't walk in and say, I don't care what you do, just do anything to make it go away. We don't want you to do an older installation that will strip your bladder wall like chlorpactin or silver nitrate. The installations that are pretty much used right now are just the rescue installations. The heparin or the Elmeron installations are the most popular. DMSO is a small second. DMSO has fallen out of favor dramatically in favor of the rescue instills. Generally, Serena, having an installation is a piece of cake. They're going to put you up on the table. They'll numb your urethra with a little bit of lidocaine. They'll stick a quick catheter in there. They'll pull it in there. They'll pull it out. And you're going to hold it for about 20 minutes. And then you go to the bathroom. Don't try to drive home with it in your bladder. Stay there until you pee it out and then drive home. And again, that's the assumption that you're doing a heparin or a Elmeron or a DMSO installation. The only challenges with having an installation is they do, depending upon the size of the catheter they use, they can stretch your urethra. And so what you'll find is that the first couple of times you pee afterwards are not going to be the happiest things you've ever done, but that goes away very quickly. Generally there's kind of a technique for it. You do, so, while you got the medicine in you, you're going to be laying there, then you're going to get up and pee, and just bite your lip and pee and let it out. You just got to bite your lip and pee. It's not going to be the happiest thing in the world you've ever done. But then on your way home, start drinking water. We want to get a good amount of water in your bladder so that, don't drink a massive amount. Just drink your normal 8 ounces of water so that by the time you get home, you got some good volume in there so that you can pee again. And that's kind of it's kind of a, a wash isn't the right way to describe it, but what you're going to find is trying to dribble it out is not going to make it easier because your urethra is just going to go ow, 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 ow. Whereas if you've got a good volume, a cup of urine in there, you can just bite your lip and pee. And just know that the next time you do it, and the next time you do it, and the next time you do it, it would just get easier and easier and easier. And usually within 24 hours, that's gone. And again, that's just your urethra reacting to having an instrument in it. Nothing to worry about. Betty says, are there any studies whether Cystoprotect or Desert Harvest Aloe have been more effective? Debbie, that's a really good question. It's a case of dueling research studies. So as an example, Desert Harvest Aloe is the only supplement that did a double-blind placebo-controlled research study, which is the penultimate research study to see if their product helped IC. And so that was remarkable. And the data from that was really, really good. However, it was a very small study. There was less than 10 patients in it. And so some people would say, no, it's not a big enough study to really give us really good results. But it was a double-blind placebo-controlled, which is, that's really good. That's just the best type of research study you can do. In contrast with Cystoprotect, Dr. Theo Herides, who's a federally funded IC researcher, the doctor who invented Cystoprotect, did what we call an observational study. He did a 6-month observational study with well over 250 patients who took his Cystoprotect for up to 6 months. And so his study was good because you had a big volume of patients taking it, but it was not as good as a double-blind placebo, right? But then you got aloe with a double-blind placebo, but it just didn't have enough. So it's really a case of dueling studies. They're both so well respected and so well known that they're actively discussed among IC specialists across the country. I was at the IC class at the American Urology Association and in May. In fact, I posted it on our website, the slide that were mucosal barriers for patients who cannot take Elmeron. And he listed both Desert Harvest Aloe and Cystoprotect as options to Elmeron for patients who cannot tolerate Elmeron for one reason or another. So they're both valid. The only issue really is there's a small group of patients who are definitely aloe intolerant. Aloe, there's kind of 3 different parts to the aloe leaf. You've got the external leaf, then you've got latex, which is right on the inside of the leaf, and then you've got the gel. And the latex is associated with a lot of real bad gut problems. And so how a company processes aloe is important. We don't want any latex in there. Desert Harvest Aloe is very, very good. But there are still some patients who just cannot tolerate, they cannot tolerate even tiny, tiny amounts of it. So if you're one of those patients, then you're going to go to Cystoprotect because Cystoprotect does not have aloe in it. But if you're aloe intolerant, then you cannot take Desert Harvest Aloe or Cystoreno. Sonia says, keep positive and persistent in finding what works for your symptoms. Yes, absolutely. So Serena's going to have a rescue and still good. That's good, hun. That's good. I mean, that really has to be, you have the potential of walking out of that doctor's office being pain-free because that lidocaine is going to numb your bladder wall. And so I hope that that happens for you. The protocol, so it's called a rescue for a reason. It's to try to rescue you out of a flare. And there are different published protocols for rescue instills. Dr. Parsons, the guy who invented Elmeron, actually published his protocol and tested it. He suggested that patients in wicked flares, because if you're having a flare, you can call your doctor and ask for a rescue. He suggested doing it 3 times a week for 2 weeks, once a week for 4 weeks, and then once a month after that until that flare resolves. Other doctors just do it once a week. So it's kind of up to your doctor what they want to do. Betty asks about, has Allura been discussed? And hold on a sec. I have to refresh my memory here. We've talked about Urilive, U-R-I-L-I-V-E, and that is a big no because it contains cranberry. Let me just look at Allura real quick because I don't remember it off the top of my head. Okay, so, you know, guys, really, no. This is a no. Oh, this is frustrating. Holy moly. So, hold on. Let me just look at this ingredient list real quick. All right. Okay. Let's talk about Allura for a moment because this is exactly what we don't want you to fall for this. So their website is myellura.com, M-Y-E-L-L-U-R-A. And it's to, quote, protect you from harmful bacteria in the body that leads to painful UTIs. And it's basic. They're marketing it as the language that they used was amazing. Hold on, there was something in here that just really, so 1 a day Allura contains medical grade PAC found deep in cranberries that helps maintain a clean urinary tract. So first of all, I mean, seriously, guys, you don't need to clean your urinary tract. Your bladder is not meant to be sterile. Your bladder contains good bacteria and bad bacteria and fungi. That's why antibiotics are such a problem. Is when you take an antibiotic, you kill the good stuff and the bad stuff. That's bad. So you shouldn't be operating from the assumption that a cleansing is appropriate for IC or irritable bowel. Your bladder's not dirty. There's nothing to cleanse it in. There's nothing to cleanse out. You know, as an example, one of the roles that beneficial bacteria do in the bowel is they produce the food that the cells lining the bowel eat. The human body cannot and does not produce this food and hasn't for millions of years. A specific species of bacteria produces this food. So when you take an antibiotic and you kill that bacteria, that beneficial bacteria, you're killing the nutrition for your bowel cells. Now, we also know, using next generation DNA sequencing in the last 5 years, that there are many species of beneficial bacteria in the bladder. We don't necessarily know what they do, but we know they're supposed to be there. So we don't, and so is there a bacteria that's nourishing, providing the food that is nourishing these cells? Probably. So the last thing we want to do is do something which is caustic and aggressive to all bacteria in the bladder. We just don't want to do that. But there was another thing in here under the FAQs. One of them was, this is hysterical. Well, is Allura acidic? And their answer is a little. It's about the same as a cup of coffee or a cola. So to put it in numbers, the pH of water is 7. Cranberry juice is a pH of 2.7. Allura is halfway between at 4.4. And so they suggest using pre-leaf if you have to take Allura. Okay. Personally, that is not a good, I just don't think that's a good idea. You know, IC is not bacterial except for a very tiny subset of IC subtype 2. And if you really believe that your IC is being caused by infection, then have this done. Next generation DNA testing, urine testing, go to bladderhealth.org. This test will tell you all the good bacteria, all the bad bacteria, and fungi. If you really think that's a problem, have this done, and let's see for real what you got. And then what you're going to be doing is it might treat anything you find, but rather than doing a cleansing, which is designed to kill things, what we need to do is we need to do the correct probiotics, a very diverse probiotic. And that's something that we're working on right now. I have a big announcement probably in a month with something new that we've been helping with. So, Betty, you're wondering if taking Allura on your vacation will help you swim. Girl, the last thing I want you to do is take Allura and give yourself a flare. Rather, what I think you should do is stay very, very hydrated. I don't know where you're going. You're going on a tropical vacation. I would be drinking a lot of bottled water to try to keep your urine as flushed as possible, and I would be following the IC diet. Whoa! We have a visitor. Can you see that tail down there? Nessie, what are you doing, honey? This is my neighbor's cat, not even my cat. Honey, you're crazy. Nessie's in. She just went down there. For Nessie, I'm working right now. Alrighty. The other thing I would do, Betty, while you're out traveling is you gotta look at the reports from the pool. As an example, I will tell you that Hawaii is notorious for having sewage-borne viruses off of Waikiki and in Hanauma Bay. The thing about a lot of islands is they don't have they don't have good sewage processing systems. And so what they have instead, I think in Hawaii, it's a 5-mile pipeline that they dump their treated sewage in 5 miles off of Waikiki, and the tide just brings it back in. And so what happens is the waters on the beaches tend to be pretty contaminated with bacteria. So if you're going to Hawaii or something like that, I would talk to the hotel, but I wouldn't remember the hotel's trying to get you to stay. I wouldn't necessarily trust what they say. I would actually call the county, a health department, and see if there are any warnings about any water quality. And the same thing with your pools. Listen, if they've got a report from that show who's treating it and when it's treated, then yeah, I think I'd go for it. But if they cannot provide any hard evidence that shows that water is being maintained, I would be very, very suspicious, and I probably wouldn't do it. I hate to burst your bubble, hun, but I mean, listen, 30, 40 years ago, it wasn't quite the issue that it is now, because we've got all these antibiotic resistant infections now that are going out in the sewage. And so getting a infection today is much harder than getting the infection when you went to the islands 30 years ago. I will tell you, I went to Hawaii when I was 18, 40 years ago, and I got a tapeworm. So the rule is, seriously, do not swim in any brown, muddy water like I did. I didn't come home with a tapeworm. Imagine being 18 and having to leave fecal samples with your doctor. Yeah, that was not fun. Angie suggests taking ice packs for after the installation. And, you know, where is it? We have an ice pack the shape of a menstrual pad that you can buy in our store. They're super inexpensive. Where is it? I got stuff all over my office. All right. So what Julie says is for them, they leave the catheter in for 20 minutes and then drain it out after they unclamp the cath. Not a lot of doctors do that. I don't think a lot of doctors actually do that. A lot of doctors will pull it out and just tell you to sit there and hold it for 20 minutes and then pee it out. Leaving a catheter in for 20 minutes in the urethra can be pretty irritating. Karen asked, why isn't there a double-blind placebo-controlled study on Cystitis? You have to ask the company, hun. You have to ask the company. The company that makes Cystitis is Algonaut, A-L-G-O-N-O-T, algonaut.com. That's Dr. Thea Haridi's company. Double-blind studies are remarkably expensive. It is very, very rare that you're ever going to see a supplement company be able to afford it. I know that Desert Harvest Aloe is doing another big study next year, and that's going to be very exciting. They're the company that's really stepped up and tried to prove that their product helps. But you can't, I mean, you know, again, Cystitis, he did a very large study that was published in the Canadian Journal of Urology, but I don't see them investing more money in research at this point in time. I mean, it's been out for 20 years. So, Betty says, thank you for the discussion on Elmeron and Cystitis. You have to give special consideration to your IBS-D. Elmeron is notorious for causing diarrhea. It's one of the really significant side effects of using Elmeron, also known as pentosan polysulfate. And quantity matters. So for either one, given that you have IBS-D, normally you would start with a tiny dosage first and work your way up and see which one might start to trigger it. So for me with Cystitis, I started with 1 capsule a day for a week, made sure my body liked it. Then I went the next week and tried 2 capsules. It immediately gave me a loose bowel. So I went back to 1. So I can't imagine for me taking 4 Cystitis a day. I would have the runs all day. Because hello, I'm IC subtype 5, I'm sensitive. I take less medication. And so you could potentially try the same thing with the Elmeron and see if either one trigger your IBS. And remember too, you know, you might be able to get away with just taking 1 capsule every other day rather than every day. You know, that might be reasonable too. Liz is asking if Hunter's ulcers can show down the line. And usually they don't. You know, Hunter's ulcers are really separate and distinct from typical IC subtype 2 bladder wall driven or IC subtype 3, 4, 5. Hunter's lesions are their own unique beast, and they usually don't cross-pollinate in any way. Hunter's ulcers have been now linked to some viral infections as well as some neuroinflammation. So when we do a biopsy of a Hunter's lesion as compared to a biopsy of a bladder wall driven, they are profoundly different. So I don't think that's something that you need to worry about. However, it is in your best interest to protect your bladder as much as you possibly can. And that means you would be a fool to be drinking coffee every day or soda every day or green tea every day. Green tea is profoundly damaging to the bladder wall. It's very high in acid and caffeine. But even if you do decaffeinated green tea, it kills the bladder. It's so acidic. Angie said her first installation was DMSO. Not gonna lie, hurt like hell. I agree. I had 8 DMSOs myself. And yes, they can teach you how to do installations at home if necessary. I'm just going through your question here. Lizzie, also, I was wondering if after you have a baby, if IC can get worse or if it'll be the same just before you get pregnant. I know studies are slim on pregnancy and IC. Thank you. So, you have to remember, Liz, that the bladder wall is incredibly estrogen dependent. So this protective coating right here is very estrogen dependent, which is why you flare the day that you ovulate, and you might feel better when you have your period or whenever. People and there's tremendous diversity in patient responses too. Some people flare when their estrogen's high, other people flare when their estrogens are low. I mean, this is kind of one of the subtypes that we're trying to understand a little bit more. And so what happens when you're pregnant is because your hormone levels change dramatically, there are some patients who become completely symptom free. And I have one woman in my support group who is a member here on Facebook. She had terrible IC, some of the worst we've seen, until she got pregnant. And then it went away completely, which is why she's had several babies. But why? I mean, why? When we talk about the subtypes, Chris Payne said there are subtypes. And I do believe that there is a previously undescribed subtype of hormone dysfunction in the bladder wall subtype. So it's hard to tell you what's going to happen. You might feel great and you might feel worse for a bit. But I will tell you that I see patients have babies all the time. You're going to make a great mother and you're going to get through it. And we have a wonderful pregnancy support forum over on our website that will give you some that will give you some encouragement and all that sort of stuff. And also, too, we have a book. If you are pregnant and you're in pain, this is the book you want to get, Ending Pain in Pregnancy, because it will help you with your muscles and anything else that might be going on. So this is by the same author as Ending Female Pelvic Pain and Ending Male Pelvic Pain. So Ending Pain in Pregnancy, this refers really to muscle-driven pain. But other things too. Definitely worth looking at. Sonia asked, are probiotics beneficial for IC? Again, we have to go back to the subtype. So are probiotics beneficial for Hunner's lesions? Well, so maybe if Hunner's lesions for some patients are viral, and the more I think about it, I think that it's foolish. You have to think about what bacteria do in the bladder, right? Bacteria, they engage in bacterial warfare, right? Good bacteria keep bad bacteria in check. And then we've got fungi. Good bacteria might keep fungi in check. Could they play a role in viral infection? I don't know. We don't know enough about viral infections in the bladder to be able to answer that. But if you are deficient in good bacteria, that could be affecting your bladder in a variety of different ways for IC subtype 2 bladder wall driven. And so using a probiotic might be useful. The question is, what probiotic? Is it in here? I think this is our summer magazine. Oh, no. It's in the book When It Hurts Down There, which I don't have right now. I had to give it to my printer. She lists the 4 species of bacteria that have been associated the most with beneficial bladder function. And so you don't just want to take a cheap one off the shelf. We've got to make sure it's a live culture and potentially a diverse culture with lots of different good bacteria. You don't want to just keep taking the same single one over and over, because you could overpopulate yourself with this one bacteria. There's a diversity in the bladder, so there should be diversity in your probiotics. We're going to have something again in about a month. I hope I'll be able to announce it's going to relate to probiotics. Alrighty. Sonia, I'd love to see your two squirrels. Yes, Gina, there is. I've written several blogs over on our website on urethral issues. The most important one is the 7 causes of urethral distress. And you know what? I can get you that link right now. Hold on a sec. Let me find it for you, and I'll just put it. Let's see here. Hello, hello. My name is Jill Osborne. I am the president and founder. Come on, computer. Here it is. April 22nd, 2015. I'll put the link. If it'll let me. There it is. Denise says, University of Maryland or Michigan doctor said cyclosporin has been used by several patients with good results. That is true. Cyclosporin certainly has been used, and it is an IC step 5 treatment option. It is step 5 because it comes with fairly serious risks of adverse events, including high blood pressure, other things like that. On the other hand, in low doses, it has been found to be helpful for some IC patients. I'm not sure which subtype, but we have multiple research studies that have been produced showing that cyclosporin can be beneficial. You just have to have your eyes wide open with respect to the potential risks of adverse events. A beginner's guide to, have you read the article by Des Newts? I don't know if you're an IC patient or not. I have no idea what you're referring to there. Karen saying, Sister Renew, why don't they do a study on newer Sister Renew, please? It's all up to Douglas Laboratories and makers. And I would just tell you right now that most companies cannot afford it. It's just too expensive. It's all about profit. Hi, Julie. So you've been getting bladder instills once a month since 2010. They always left the catheter in. I can say that that's never happened to me. Doctors tend to have preferences. Be very curious to find out which doctor that is. I don't know if I would call that routine or not. I just don't know. All I can tell you is that here on the West Coast, I don't know of any doctor who's ever done it that way. And it's kind of cruel because you're kind of stuck there, and God forbid they walk out of the room and you be in pain. I mean, at least when by pulling it out, it gives you control over when you need to pee. So I don't know. I wish I could turn the computer around, show you what it's like here. We haven't been able to go outside and do anything without our gas masks and without our masks for about a week. I'm dying to get some exercise. Ugh, I'm worked up. I need to go out in my garden, and I can't do that right now. It's very, very frustrating. All right, my friends, last call for questions. Last call for questions. All right. been 2 hours and 30 minutes. I think we'll call it here. I'll be doing another live support group meeting this Sunday at 12:30 p.m. Pacific time. Those usually go for 2 hours, barring fire. So please be patient. It's hard to know. We're just living day to day right now, hour by hour sometimes. So if we can safely do it, we will do it. If we can't, then we will push it off. But our normal meetings are twice a week. Twice a month, first and third Sundays of the month. And then I do drop-ins. Today was a drop-in where I just drop in and see who's coming. So, all right, my friends, I wish you well. I hope that you sleep well tonight. And if, as always, if you have any questions, you are absolutely welcome to give me a phone call. I would be happy to try to help you. I kind of consider myself the national IC support group leader. And you can, I was just going to put my phone number, our phone number. We're the only IC group that answers the phone and takes your questions. ICnetwork.com, 800-928-7496. Be well, everybody. Have a good one. Good. Last chance, YouTube. I've turned off Facebook. All right. See you guys later. Be well. Be happy.